Death walks among you. What? You think I'm some sort of caveman who's not playing Overwatch? Are you mad? Hello YouTube, I'm Darkest101, and I'm sorry it's been a little bit of a while, but yeah, I am awful at planning this shit. So if you haven't already seen the review I did on Darksiders 1, then please check that out, because we are rolling into our second review of Double Dip December, Darksiders 2. Darksiders 2, and once again I have to preface this by saying I'm reviewing the original Darksiders 2 on PS3 rather than the definitive edition that was released sometime last year. And if you want any indication of what the hell I'm expecting from this game, then I'm going to have to disappoint because I have no idea myself. My expectations were thrown completely out of the fucking window after playing through the first Darksiders. All I know is in the sequel, you're playing as the second horseman of the apocalypse, Death, who looks like an honest-to-God total dead ringer for the Reaper from Overwatch. Oh, speaking of, I need to put something in my diary. Yeah, I'm free that day. Film moment of consideration on Overwatch. Done. Right, moving on. First thing I need to comment on is just how different Death is to War. I know it sounds unbelievably redundant to point out something so obvious, but let me explain. I feel as if Death is the weaker of these two, but the more precise and competent warrior, which is reflected in his fighting style and choice in apparel. There's one word I can think to describe Death, and that's wild. Not in the whole 90s cool kid sense of the word, but in the proper, feral, animalistic, almost tribal meaning. He's designed and plays completely differently to War. You can tell they really went all out in making sure that while the gameplay was familiar enough for you to feel confident going forward in the sequel, they didn't want it to be the exact same experience. Which, you know, is appreciated. It's nice to see the developers were like, they wanted to make this game recognisably Darksiders, but they wanted to shake things up to prevent it from becoming the same old grind. And holy cow, that voice is fucking cool. Michael Wincott, you did a fantastic job playing Death. It is so fucking cool. It's badass when he threatens people.
Careful, Crowfather. I'm not here to put you out of your misery. Not yet.
It's fucking awesome when he's just talking to people.
I seek the tree. Your chaos and corruption don't concern me.
It even sounds incredible when he's confused.
I know this pistol. It belongs to my brother, Strive. How came it here?
It's just a cool fucking voice. I mean, War's voice was fine. War's voice was, you know, it was good. But War was completely overshadowed by Mark Hamill most of the time. Here, Death stands alone. And, you know, you can just let his voice soothe you, even as he tells you, this is no place for a horse. There are also a lot of new mechanics in Darksiders 2, making the RPG elements in the first one come out even stronger. You can get new gear which have their own unique buffs and stats, you can collect secondary weapons dropped from enemies and pick and choose which ones you want to use, and you have a full upgrade tree which you can dump skill points into and get new skills and abilities which can then be further upgraded with new additional powers and passive abilities and extra add-ons. And like I just mentioned, along with the gear you have a whole host of secondary weapons you can pick up throughout your playthrough. In the original Darksiders you had 2 secondary weapons, but in this sequel you get a whole bunch of different secondary weapons at your disposal. You can have a dozen or so in your inventory, but only one equipped at a time, but even so, the variety of weapons you have allows you to customize Death specifically to your playstyle. There is, however, one small problem with this system of economy, and that involves the merchants. There are 3 types of merchants in this game. Merchants selling gear, those offering to train you in combat, and of course everybody's good friend Volgrim. However, the problem with the merchants selling gear and secondary weapons is that you don't need to visit them because chances are you're going to find better weapons than what they're selling for free as part of a loot drop or something. And then with all the cash you haven't spent on weapons, you completely max out your training specs instantly. And Vulgrim isn't anywhere near as frequent as he was in the first Darksiders, and he's pretty much there for side quests and collectible stuff. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to have that whole RPG thing where there's a bunch of different merchants in every different area, and you can go to one merchant and get certain items and blah blah blah. There's the same items from different merchants. I get that. But Darksiders isn't totally an RPG. And the reason Vulgrim worked in the first game and not here is because Vulgrim acted as the central merchant. He was a character. He was designed to be the merchant. Now, instead of having everything you could need in one convenient person, you have to jump from different merchants around the place. If you want weapons, you have to go out of, say, the training menu and go and grab weapons from the weapon merchant. If you want general items from Vulgrim, you have to go out and ride Despair for a while. It doesn't work if you have multiple merchants selling different things compared to Vulgrim selling all of them in the first Darksiders. And the last thing I have to comment here is the central theme of the game. In Darksiders 1, you had one really big map you had to traverse in order to achieve your end goals. In this, there are 5, and just like the merchants, just because you have more doesn't make it better. It makes it feel as if there was one big map split up and spread around and smushed the whole lot. Yes, they succeeded in making that big map even bigger, but congratulations, that huge map you've just created is now a hell of a lot more empty. Now, that's not really much of a problem apart from the fact that this huge open world game, this game clearly wants to be, still feels incredibly linear, and that has something to do with the fact that everything Death does feels like a fetch quest for somebody else. In the first map, it's kind of acceptable because it felt like there was a point to it. There was a proper goal, there was a quest to accomplish, there was a reason as to why Death had to go across the whole map. But everywhere else, it's literally Death doing shit so that other people will help him. Everywhere Death goes, people won't help him unless he helps them first. I get it, it's another RPG trope, you know, people won't help you unless you help them and vice versa, that kind of thing. But that RPG trope is usually associated to side quests, in my personal opinion. So essentially, what Darksiders 2's story for me feels like, it feels like a bunch of side quests. And that's not a good place you want to be. The story takes place in the century between war arriving on Earth and the rest of Darksiders, with Death, strongest of the 4 horsemen, riding out to fix the damage done by War's premature arrival. It's understandable, you know, I mean, you gotta look at it from War's perspective, you know, he's been around the block a couple of times, he's not the young man he used to be, he's bound to pick up some performance issues from somewhere. Ejaculation joke accomplished, Death's actually seeking out a way to bring back humanity from the grave, and so seeks out the Crowfather, a man whose secrets Death hopes will provide him with the knowledge of resurrecting humanity. The Crowfather refuses to part with such knowledge until Death takes back the amulet containing the souls of all his Nephilim brethren. Oh, is this where Capcom left Dante and Virgil after Ninja Theory were done with them? After kicking the shit out of the Crowfather, the amulet shatters and embeds itself in Death's chest. This causes him to pass out, and when he comes to, he's in a place called Tristone, where he meets the Makers, beings who create everything from weapons to worlds. And it's here that we find the main enemy of this game. And trust me, you won't have any trouble remembering the name of said enemy because they repeat it every 5 minutes.
Corruption, 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 corruption.
Corruption, 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 corruption.
Oh my fucking god, I get it, alright? Shut up. I get it. We're fighting corruption. Move along. Now, to be 100% honest, the villain of this game is kind of shit. I mean, the Destroyer wasn't the greatest villain. He wasn't mocking War from a distance. There wasn't a big long history between the two of them. I get that. But he was still talked about. He was still the set goal. The goal of Darksiders 1 was to kill the Destroyer. That was the point. The corruption in this game isn't even a person, more or less. It's just an abstract entity that serves as an obstacle for Death's real goal of resurrecting humanity. It's just something to get in the way, and it's so fucking shit. And they tried so hard to make this work as a villain by tying the corruption to the first Nephilim, Absalom, the last Nephilim Death killed as it turns out. But it's done so poorly and so shittily that they honestly might not have even bothered. And they try and tie it into this big conflict of Death's character, where they make it seem like Death might resurrect the Nephilim instead of humanity, even though we know he won't do that because the whole reason he went on this quest was to save War, and he chose to kill the Nephilim. He chose to kill them. I honestly could not get invested in the villain, and I honestly could not give a shit about Death's conflict of character. It was done so fucking poorly. Anyway, Death gets told that if he wants to resurrect humanity, he'll have to go to the Tree of Life. And in order to do that, he'll have to awaken an ancient maker creation known as the Guardian. He does so, but the Guardian has been afflicted with the corruption. And so Death has to take it down, and honestly, this right here, this is the best fight of the whole goddamn game. You are literally a horseman of the apocalypse, riding around on your horse of despair, chasing this giant creature, blowing up its body, and all that fucking amazing visual you see right there. It's amazing. It's a brilliant fight. It's a pity that nothing else in the whole goddamn game comes anywhere near close to the amazing feeling you get in this battle. I mean, I have just showered this bit in praise. It is fantastic. I just can't help but think that they blew their load a little early, you know? I mean, they never top this, so when I'm fighting a really poor boss later on in the game, I'm just going to be pointing back at the Guardian going, You made this! Where was this creativity later on? So Death kicks the shit out of the Guardian, and the Guardian comes back to life, but good again. So the Guardian destroys the corruption, and Death rides for the Tree of Life, only for the tree to throw him to the land of the dead. Confused as to what he has to do next, he seeks out the King of Bones, real creative name he came up with there, guys, who tells him there's a spirit in the city of the dead who can guide him. Seeking out said spirit, Death ends up having a fight with Cthulhu. Nope, there's nothing you can say to change my mind. That's Cthulhu. That's a Cthulhu right there. Nothing you can say. Yep, Death has just murdered Cthulhu right there. What a dick. And this leads him to meeting up with the Crow Father. Okay, let me just stop you right there. We went through resurrecting the Guardian, this giant stone behemoth, and then we went through it, literally killed it, and then we came to the land of the dead, sought out the King of Bones, had to travel through the City of Death, kill and murder Cthulhu, only to be brought back to the one asshole at the beginning of the game who wouldn't fucking help us. The fuck? Apparently the Crow Father is really cool about that whole murdering him thing, and so tells Death to seek out the Well of Souls. He must first, however, get the two keys that allow access to the well, one hidden with the angels, the other hidden with the demon Samael, which of course he gets through murdering a lot of people. And so with both keys in hand, Death enters the Well of Souls and confronts Absalom, the Avatar of Chaos, in one of the easier bosses of the game. And so, enemy vanquished, Death throws himself into the well. But as we saw at the end of Darksiders, humanity hasn't been revived, War still must prove himself innocent, and Death clearly hasn't died, so what was the point of this whole fucking game? I just fucking annihilated that plot, didn't I? I mean, jeez, how long was that? I don't even think that was 5 minutes. So, Darksiders 2, I guess. Well, I mean, it was kind of, you know. I will give it points for trying to expand on the universe of Darksiders. It's interesting to see the worlds that extend beyond Earth after the apocalypse. The angelic, the demonic, the world of death, and the world that makes life. All of them are instantly recognizable from one another. The loot system kind of breaks the economy of the game though, but by the end of your playthrough, Death looks a heck of a lot more badass than when he starts, which is something that didn't happen in the first game, so props there. The game does come up with some stunning visuals, Death is a lot more of an interesting character than War was, and the combat is still fluid and can be changed in a variety of different ways depending on what abilities you unlock and what secondary weapon you fight with. The repetitive nature of the whole fetch quest thing is a bit annoying, however. I remember reaching a part where it was revealed I needed 2 keys to get into the Well of Souls, and I almost cried, it got so tedious. Darksiders 2 isn't a bad game, far from it. I mean, it does a lot of things right, but the stuff it gets wrong really make the playthrough a hell of a lot less fun than it could have been. I mean, it does improve on a lot of things from the first game, but it takes away from stuff that the first game already had fucking nailed. Somewhere between the two is a fantastic game, somewhere, I'm sure of it. But this just wasn't it. However, the character, the improvements to the combat, and the powers, abilities, and the secondary weapon system, they all just tip my personal favour for Darksiders 2, and so that is why Darksiders 2 gets a dark rating of 73.
What is this? I don't like being toyed with.
And that was our second review for Double Dip December. If you have a suggestion for a future review, please drop it in the comment section below. I promise I will have the next reviews for Double Dip December uploaded on time this week, Sunday 6:30 GMT. And as always, I've been Darkest101. You have been watching Double Dip December on Darkest101 Reviews. Thanks for watching. Good night, YouTube.